Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. And to those who celebrate, Merry Christmas. How fun that the holidays are landing on podcast days, or podcast days are landing on holidays. This is so fun. I hope that you are just in your bliss, that your heart is warm, that you are feeling loved and celebrated by those that mean the most to you. You are certainly loved and celebrated by me. We are having a beautiful festive time over here at the Phineas Wright House. We've had farm stay guests here, and they were traveling internationally to come stay at the Phineas Wright House, which is very exciting. And you may not know this, but if you are here for the holidays, you can send all of your gifts and I will wrap them beautifully and put them under the tree so that when you arrive, it's all waiting for you. Just another fun, fabulous thing that you can experience when you come do your farm stay here. But we have been having a really delightful time with them. And tonight, I am very excited to say that I will be heading to the airport myself for Paris. Eek! So fun. So I'm so excited to spend New Year's Eve in Paris and Versailles with my fabulous clients as well. It's going to be so fun. Please follow along on Instagram if you're wanting to see what we're up to. It's going to be glorious. So excited. I am also so excited about today's guest. She is a returning Say Yes to Yourself podcast guest, Jessie-Sierra Ross. You may remember her. We've linked her other interview down in the show notes. It's been over a year since we've had her, and she is up to good, fabulous things. So she is the force behind the very popular cooking and home entertaining blog, Straight to the Hips Baby. It started as just a way for her to use her creativity and have some adult interaction as she moved from Boston to the Berkshires and finished out her career as a professional ballerina and ballet coach. And she has turned to blogging, and it really took off. It's so beautiful. It started off small and it's morphed into nationally televised cooking segments on NBC, PBS, and CBS, as well as featured articles, podcast, and brand collaborations. And her fabulous latest venture is her first cookbook, Seasons Around the Table. So we're so delighted to have her back, to have her tell us all about that process. And I cannot wait for you to be inspired and feel celebrated by our time with Jessie-Sierra Ross. Sweet Jessie, I am thrilled to see your beautiful face. I'm so excited to catch up on all the amazing things you've been up to since our last conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And it's so stellar to be back and to look back at how far we've come since I think it's a year, 2 years since we last spoke. I can't even remember. Like, time has flown and so many amazing things have happened. So thank you again.
Right? Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. And, I believe this is the same for you, but ours is one of those connections where upon our first conversation, I was reminding myself I've never actually spoken to this woman. I don't actually know her, but I felt so connected to you, so celebratory of all of the beautiful, beautiful things that you are not only doing in the world, but sharing with the world so generously, so lavishly. And this new project is brilliant, and I'm really excited to hear about it and everything else that you want to fill me in on. But let's start with, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season? As if I don't know.
You're incredibly kind, and I have to echo the sentiment about I feel like I've known you like for years and years and years, and it's so wonderful to find someone who's on the same wavelength. How am I saying yes? I am saying yes by embracing the excitement, the chaos, the uh, I want to say good fear. I think there's good fear and there's bad fear, but this is good fear because it's pushing me to my limits of writing and promoting and now just holding my new home entertaining and cookbook seasons around the table in my hand. This has been my fourth child, and it's
Mhm.
been my longest pregnancy by far, 2 years or so. But I could not be happier and more just thrilled to share everything that I have been broadcasting on all of my social media channels, on my blog, through my TV work, the joys of home entertaining through a seasonally focused lens. And it's been a wild, amazing ride. And I've been fortunate to have had some great partners in my publisher at Schiffer Publishing and agents. And even my husband shot all the photography for the book. My kids were involved. You'll see little snippets of them in there. It's been saying yes to leveling up.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. And I would love to talk about this good fear, this positive fear feeling. I think, you said it as you summed up this beautiful synopsis of what's been going on with you, that it has been this intentional up level.
Mhm.
And anytime we're in that sort of growth spurt, whether it's, deciding to go to college or deciding to get a graduate degree, or there's something where that there's going to be work, that effort is going to be required, and that there's a prize.
Mhm.
And when you are saying yes to things in this entrepreneurial space, there's not always a definitive route to get to the destination. The destination often changes a
Mhm.
bit on your way there. There's some course correcting. And even in this project, although you knew you were writing a cookbook, you knew that it was going to include not only recipes, but also beautiful examples of what makes a gathering successful, which has so much intention around it. But there's still so much that you can't prepare for. And so I'm eager to hear about that process and how that feeling, that the good feeling of fear, the right kind of hard, the growth edges that
Mhm.
you came up against in this project.
Oh, absolutely. I like how you put that you have to course correct. I think that any pathway, particularly if this is your sort of passion career, it zigzags. And the zig is not always necessarily a bad thing. It can help inform your next zag. It can
For
help
sure.
train you to see potential. I like to always keep a potential sort of growth mindset. Not to say that I don't get down and worry. I am definitely a worry wart, but I think it's really important when you take that chance on yourself that you've done the background work, that you've created the skill set, that you've mastered sort of the ability to ask for help from others before
Mm.
you step off that cliff, because you want to have a parachute ready, or at least something to help you glide down. And uh, we we did that, and I think in particular creating these connections with other creators and photographers and foodies and people in the know has really helped me, so that when we were in this writing process, I wrote this book. I keep saying we, but because I think of it as a joint effort
The
for
royal
the
we, yes.
the creativity part of it. But I wrote the book pretty much in 6 months, and that's unheard of. The process of creating the content has been about 18 months. But the actual writing of the book, I've never done anything like this before. And I sat down and faced that fear in front of the computer screen of what I'm sharing, is it worthwhile? And I think that
Mm.
you have to constantly fight those little demons on your shoulder saying, oh, perhaps no one else is interested, or perhaps, you're doing this as a vanity project. And you just got to kind of flick that guy off your shoulder and say, no, this is something that I'm passionate about. So I'm sure there's others out there who want to know more about the art of gathering and good food and good drink and flowers. And it's really been a pathway of personal growth, of professional growth, but really it's pushed me beyond what I ever thought I was capable of in this fashion, in this sort of section of my life. So it's been wildly fulfilling.
Can you say more about that? Say more about what what pushed you farther and in what direction? Because what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, the order in
Mhm.
which you did these things was wickedly brilliant.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Building this strong community, building this following, and then giving them something to interact with in a more tangible way to hold in their hand seems so wise, as opposed to coming right onto the
Right,
scene. Here, I've written this book. You should buy it. You don't know me. You'll know me after you read my book.
right, right.
I just think that it seems to me, as an outsider, that you did this in such a beautiful, intentional, wise way that I'm interested in the stretch portion,
Mhm.
because I don't mean to discount the process, because I can't imagine how hard it is. I know how to cook, and when I have to actually write the recipe, I'm like, oh my gosh, just the formatting, 3/4 cup. It feels very laborious, more so than the 3 days it takes to make my delicious roast chicken. But you make it look effortless. So I'm interested in what hard looks like for you.
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me circle back to the start of the question. I think when you mentioned community, it was very important to me. Straight to the Hips Baby was an outlet for me. It was a passion project. It was my way to communicate with the outside world after I had retired from professional ballet. I had moved to a more country setting, and I suddenly had two and then three small children. And I started from that point very purposely and kept that authenticity of me, Jessie, the creator, the former artist, the person who's on the run, who loves to cook but may not have all the time in the world to create um, these feasts that would have me tied to a stove versus out and enjoying my company. So as the company grew, I always checked in with not only my perspective, but also the community that was supporting that. And so, growing from the blog as a hobby to a full time food and home entertaining and lifestyle blog, to the social media, to the TV segments, and then streaming channels, and then to the book. It looks like it's linear, but it hasn't been linear. I had been trying to create a book probably since my 5th year of blogging, and I talked to many different people, many different agents and others who had done it before me. And I am a type A. I'm also, my mom used to say, an old soul. Really, I'm impatient. I want what I want when I want it. And why isn't
That's
it
right.
happening now? Because I feel like
I
I'm qualified.
decided. Come on now.
Right, I'm
Right.
ready. But life has a real way of teaching you when, where, and how, and humbling you. So
Mm,
that effort, 8 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, of wanting to do a book, it sat and it percolated. And I decided to
mm,
grow the other elements, my community, my connections to the whole food community and creation sort of makers. And in that process, I was able to learn new skills, to create something that I thought was unique, and then to really develop it to give to my audience. So yes, always stay authentic, but don't rush. I think there's a big
mm,
urge, there's this fear of missing out. I started creating and saying this mantra to myself that I don't chase, I attract. What is mine
love
will
it.
find me. And it
That's
sounds
right.
very like woo woo, but it helped
Oh, I'm
calm
here
me
for
down,
it.
right? It helped calm me down. So I wasn't feeling like I was being passed over anymore. It wasn't
Right.
being passed over. I just wasn't ready yet. And truly, I wasn't ready. I didn't have the skill sets yet. But going back to the second part of the question about what hard looks like to me, hard is probably finding that work life balance. I
Mm,
love being creative. I love throwing myself into a project and making something that's very real to me. It's very much like a soul project. So this book, everything in it, from the flowers to the food to the styling, the light and dreamy sort of scenes that they're in there, of course, the marvelous food and drink, it's very much a reflection of how I live, or the idealized way of living if I had all the time in the world. But it's definitely something that I put in each holiday and each dinner party. This little moment that is able to freeze in time, and all of the friends and loved ones who come over for that dinner can also take a pause from the outside world and just be present at the table and enjoy the beauty, enjoy the flavors, enjoy the connection that we have with each other. The hard part for me, I think, is and finding the time to wear all the hats. So I'm
mhm.
a small business owner. You are as well. I'm a creator. I am a mom. I am, someone who's very passionate about community organization and giving back and charitable interests. So there's a lot going on in my life, but the hard part was making myself sit down and write
Mm,
and focus. And by what I did was, that was probably the most stressful part of the whole book. It wasn't the recipe testing or the photography. That was really fun. Um, the writing, the stories was very fun, but it was sitting down to do the nitty gritty of how are we going to change this from, what we use standard measurements in America to metric. How are we going to describe this to someone who may not have the most experience cooking, so that I can relate it to them in the most positive way in the most few words. So it's efficient.
right.
Um, so it's just finding the time to settle down, because I think that I'm very much like a magpie. I like shiny things. And so to not be distracted. So hard for me is making sure that all the needs are met, and then I can sit down and make sure that the
Mm,
project needs are met.
wow. Okay. I see so much of myself in you, which makes sense because we feel so connected already. I love the way that you articulated this process. I think what came up for me, and similarly to you, in this balance as a visionary, I need an implementer, because like we said earlier, you decide you want to do a book. It's like, okay, oh,
Mhm.
it's not done yet. I decided. And that is how I feel like I'm an idea factory. I'm even
Mhm.
more of an idea factory when I'm in France, because I'm just in this high vibe, beautiful location without any of my regular chores and responsibilities. I'm surrounded by beauty. I'm surrounded by architecture. I'm surrounded by art and fashion and fabulous food and drink and people and energy. And these gorgeous buildings remind me that my dreams are not too big and that I have a lot of them, but the implementing of each of these pieces is where it hits a pretty big speed bump. So, how are you doing all of those things? What areas were you able to outsource? What areas were you able to say, okay, I'm going to do the first run and I'm also going to be the last set of eyes on this because it needs to be my voice? And the reason that I'm asking this is because I think it's really important for me to remind myself, but also for my listeners, there's actually not a prize for doing everything yourself. There's no, like, no one's going to think you're a big fake if someone cleans your house or someone sends your emails or whatever those things are. And I really don't think our beautiful communities of people that support us think that, but sometimes I think they think that I'm trying to make them think that
Hmm.
it's very convoluted, but I'm really becoming more aware of my not only my desire for support, but my requirement for support because of how big my ideas are, and that there is a role of a visionary and an implementer. It's the queen and the prime minister. It's the person that says where we're going and the other person that says how we're getting there.
Absolutely. And I feel like I should take your quote and kind of tattoo it on my forehead because it's both the pressure that I want people to know that I work hard, and it is a party of two here at Straight to the Hips Baby, and it's myself and my husband, but mainly it's me. And that's
Mhm.
cool. And I like it. And that's why I did it that way. And I've been very hesitant to bring more people on board. I've been speaking with other creators probably for 5 years, and they've been practically hitting me over the head, telling me I need to outsource, I need to get a VA, I need to
Mhm.
do this. And they're right, but I'm a stubborn Boston girl, and I'm like, oh no, I can do it. But this book taught me that you really do have to pick and choose what you're going to do and what you're going to do fruitfully. So I sat down under the advice of one of my dear creator friends, Shelley Waldman, who is an extraordinary photographer and coach for women in photography. And she said, well, figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what you will do, but you don't really like to do. And that's what I did. So when I sat down, I made 3 columns. I said, well, I do love recipe testing. I do love setting these scenes. I do love food styling. So I don't need to hire that. I'm like, oh, I do love the photography. Okay. Do I really like the editing? Well, no, but I can do it. How about PR? Yeah, I can do that, but not as well as someone who is trained to do it. So that very quickly became okay, that's going to be outsourced when the time comes. And I've been very fortunate to be working with an excellent, well known cookbook PR agent, Carrie Bachman, and a lifestyle PR person, Jillian Sanders. And it's been life changing because I can suggest, I can talk about it. We can go back and forth. And it's very much a working relationship. It's not me being a boss lady and telling them. It's them doing what they do best, and then they come back to me and we discuss it. And it has been such a relief. So that part has been farmed out. I started embracing more automation. So
Mhm.
my emails that used to be on another server that was not automated, it was very difficult. It was just a pain in the butt. I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. We're going to switch over to Substack. So my
Mhm.
newsletters became a Substack newsletter, and I'm over at Jessie-Sierra, The Last Bite. And that's more of an automated system for me. It gets my audience done. When I was thinking about editing on the large scale, I said, absolutely not. We have an editor through Schiffer
Right.
Publishing. Here you go. And they have been amazing. Sandra Kornack is my editor, and she has waded through all my commas that I like to use in my run-on sentences. And the team at Schiffer has been incredible about really holding me up so that I can do what I do best, which is the
Right.
creative. So I think it's really important for people to understand that you can't do this in a vacuum. You do
Mhm.
have to figure out who you want on your team, figure out what you do well, what you enjoy doing, as well as the things you don't really enjoy doing, even though you're capable, and those items that you are just not. I mean, I don't want to say you're not good at, but maybe you're not at the level that you need to for the greatest success for this project. PR,
Yeah.
I mean, I know social media for my small scale, but for this, for a book, completely different beast. So
Right.
find the right people, find the people that will encourage you and build your team, keep you motivated, but also relieve some of that stress because when you are the wearer of many hats, you can't afford to have a breakdown over a piece of content.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your process because I think it's really true that we cannot do this in a vacuum. And you touched on it as well of, yeah, we're capable of doing everything. Obviously, we're women. We can
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
and we do all the time, do superhuman amounts of tasks. And most often at the expense of our own personal health, mental
Mm-hmm.
health, physical health. We're eating a granola bar while driving somewhere, all the things. So it has nothing to do with being capable of doing whatever the task is. It's being a queen about representation, about looking at the list of things that need to be done and identifying what do I love doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is the most pleasurable way I can write a book? Well, the most pleasurable way is to stay in my own lane
Mm-hmm.
and to outsource these other things so that they are letting somebody else use their gifts, which they're super great at. There's a fabulous editor who doesn't think that she can write a book, but she can edit a book.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let's put those two people together. It's allowing other people to work in their gifts. And also, I just want to applaud you for having somebody do the PR because there's this separation of attachment
Mm-hmm.
to the project. It is her job to promote you like her life depends on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we, especially as women, especially as creatives, especially as creative women that are actually getting to do what they love instead of getting a job, we can put some limitations on ourselves or on the project and not promote it for the beautiful work that it is because we have so much information about ourselves and about, oh, well, there's that one meal I wanted to make, but it wasn't going to translate well and I had to take it out. And all of these things that can kind of muddy the water in the promoting piece because of all the information we have. So great job in having somebody else do that because they actually see it more clearly. It's like that saying how you can't read the label from inside the bottle. So, right? So this team
I
gets to
love that.
promote this project for the beauty that it is without you doing that and well, I don't want to sound obnoxious and promoting myself, but that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So, not that that's obnoxious, but we can tell ourselves so many stories that keep this book on a shelf instead of on somebody else's shelf where it belongs.
Right. And it's also about time. Time is so precious, and sometimes that amount of time that you would have given to that area of promotion, or perhaps, if you're a writer, but you're not a photographer, but you want to, uh, to learn the skill set, it takes time away from what you are already doing really well right
Yeah.
now. And it's not to say that you can't learn those skill sets. It's not that, and maybe in the future you're not going to do those items that are on the agenda, but right now, so that you can do your best work, keep your sanity, and also maintain that work-life balance to the best degree you can, this is what we have to do. And as a creator, yes, it's very hard to release ownership. That's why
Mm.
it's important that when you are interviewing, whether it's someone to help you on the back end with, emails or writing posts. I know several authors have had to outsource some of their writing. I took a hiatus from my blog for a year because I knew that I couldn't divide my attention. And luckily my readership transitioned with me. I kept my socials up and going and really current, but the blog was there as a platform. But it's about finding out what you can do without losing your mind, if it sounds terrible, because a book is very intense. It's kind of like going back to school in a way, except you're crash coursing a whole course load within a year. You're in it, and you have to give you have to present this fully fledged, fully formed book at the end of that process. So how are you going to best manage that?
It's such a huge undertaking. And as you mentioned before, you referenced it as your fourth child,
Mm.
because it does take all of this energy. But although it's your fourth child, it's also kind of your first child,
Mm-hmm.
where there's so much I pressure is the only word that's coming to me, but when you're going to be a mom for the first time, your comparison is only to your fantasy of what a
Mm-hmm.
perfect mom is. You really, I mean, of course, I had tons of friends that had children. I was the kids director at my church for several years. I've been around kids my whole life. Adopting Amelia as a 2-year-old from China, I, and I'm a smart woman, but I really thought, oh, well, she's 2. I'm just going to take her everywhere I go. Like, it's going to be so great. She can already walk. This is brilliant. It's had no idea
Mm-hmm.
that it takes all day long every day, and that you don't know that you were going to have 15 minutes until the end of the day, and you're reflecting, and they weren't
Mm-hmm.
even 15 minutes in a row. So it's kind of the pressure or the expectation that we have of anything that we've never done before, that is either loaded with grace or loaded with this desire for perfection,
Mm-hmm.
that it does take so much out of you. And I love the mantra that you mentioned earlier about that you're not chasing things, that you attract everything that's meant for you. And I have a similar reminder on a sticky note on my desk at home that I will not miss out on what's meant for me. And that is just something that I can breathe into every day as I am figuring out the
Mm-hmm.
next fabulous thing and fabulous opportunity that comes to us. And I think in this practice of saying yes to ourselves, as we normalize that, and as we continue to do what lights us up, and we do new things, and we come up against our growth edges, and we master that, and we get the book out, birth that baby, and then we know I can do this again, and I can learn from what my first experience was, or I'm never doing this again. And that's what I learned from my first experience. Right. And it just gets to be whatever you want it to be.
Completely agree. And I think that very much like having children, you don't know what you don't know until you're in it. I have 3 sons, and I can remember those days very well where I lost 20 minutes of my life arguing over whether my toddler could eat an entire block of cheese for breakfast. No, you can't. But similar with the book, you have these benchmarks and due dates, for when the rough manuscript should be in, when the first batch of photographs should be in, when they should be edited, when different drafts have to go to this person, this person, person, when you have to talk about book design. What's great about writing the book is that if you go with a traditional publisher, there are road maps, there are sort of pit stops. And to be honest with yourself too, and say, and I had to do this, when I had to say, hey, I need another week to do this
Mhm.
because I want to give you my best work. And if I have to rush through this in the next, 48 hours, it's not going to be my best work. And I want you to have everything you need from me. And when I go and I hope to write another book, I already have ideas
I
percolating.
bet you do.
Um, I will know, oh, so this has to be done this way. And this way, this is going to take about 6 weeks to do, or this might only take a week and we can play with that. It's kind of time budgeting. And it becomes easier, like anything else, like riding a bike. When you first start riding a bike, you're going to fall on your keister a dozen times. But once you've done it, you have a reference so that you
Right.
can streamline that process. So I think that for anyone who's thinking about going into publishing, it's definitely worth the kind of reach out, the idea of to push yourself to that level and see what you can make. I never thought I'd be a cookbook author. I wanted to be, but when I was a little girl, I was fully enmeshed in the world of point shoes and tutus. It's so different, but at the same time so similar because it's hard
Right.
work over years with a tremendous focus to get to that goal. So embrace that goal with grace.
I love that. I'm glad you referenced your former career in ballet. Are you
Hmm.
a ballerina? Is that, or
Yes.
do you call yourself a
Yeah.
dancer? Okay.
Oh, the
I don't
above.
want to be offensive because
It's
I'm
not offensive. No,
not
no.
one. Okay. Okay. It's like they're called flight attendants, not stewardess, all the things.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be that. So I imagine similarly to my background as a wedding planner,
Hmm.
these tables that you are setting, these beautiful experiences that you're inviting friends and guests into, they have an air of production
Hmm.
to them because it's just what you know.
Hmm.
Well, of course, you have props and create a stage and wear beautiful clothing and have music. Like those are just commonplace because of your first career. Similarly to me,
Hmm.
of course, I have place cards when 6 people are coming for dinner. And of course, I sent paper invitations. And of course, I have a signature cocktail. And of course, we start in one space for this and then move on to this space because everything is a wedding.
Hmm.
And there's a favor, and you take something home with you. And it's just the only way I know how to do things. And I love that you are bringing that. Someone might think, well, I've never written a cookbook before. So I I don't know if I can do it, when recalling and reminding yourself how you've been preparing for this project your whole
Hmm.
life. And it's so beautiful. Even these conversations on the podcast, someone will send me a note. Oh, are there some questions? Like, how do I prepare for this? I'm like, oh, you've been preparing for 40 years. We're just going to have a conversation.
Love that.
And if you are like, my preparation comes at 4:45 in the morning when I'm
Hmm.
doing my morning practice. I'm tapping in, and that is what gets me through the day to come. Whatever is on my to-do list, whatever comes out of nowhere, whatever is attracted to me, I'm ready for because
Hmm.
of that work. And I love how that is translating to the beautiful, beautiful events that you're not only creating, but now you're sharing for other people to recreate in their own homes with their own spin.
Thank you for that. And that was beautifully put. As you were talking about the transition and from theater to the book to the table stage, a thought popped in my head that in ballet in particular, you start from a very young age and you start with the basics, plie, tendu, jeté at the bar, and you repeat and you repeat and you build. And every day, even when you're a professional dancer, you still return to that same ballet bar that you started at age 5 to do the same movement that you have been doing since age 5. But the difference being that you're adding another layer of artistry. You're adding more
Mm.
detail, you're adding a bit of you to that so that you are prepared when a choreographer comes in the room to actually set a ballet, set a dance. you have the tools in your toolkit to say, yes, I can do that, and then you go through it. And I think it's very similar to hosting. Um, you know, we host, and eventually if we host enough, it becomes rote. And when I wrote this book, I wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable with hosting and cooking and creating table design and looking at things through a specific lens, but do it enough, and also see directions that they would become comfortable, just like me at the ballet bar at age 5 and then at 30, to do it on their own and make it their own, because it's all about repetition. There's a formula to it. There's
Hmm.
several pieces that always stay the same as a wedding. You're always going to have a cocktail hour that's going to transition to dinner,
Hmm.
dancing, cake, afterwards treat, and then you're off on your honeymoon. A dinner party follows the same sort of guidelines. You're going to create a beautiful table with specific items, with flowers, but for me, you're not going to go crazy. I believe in lush minimalism. So we're going to
Oh,
create
I
big
love
impact,
that.
things that don't stress you out, and items from your house you can put on the table, and you're going to create this overflowing floral display and little nibbles and noshes. People are going to walk in the front door. You're going to hand them an original cocktail. It'll be 5 ingredients. It's an Aperol spritz. Is it hard? No, but will it make the tone of the evening really, really light and fun? Yes. And then you move on to an easy appetizer and your side and your main and your dessert that you did not slave away for the last 24
Right.
hours. And conversation, it's all about finding the steps, finding the pieces to create the choreography of a
That's right.
gorgeous event.
It's beautiful. I love it. I'm obsessed.
It's like a stage. I have honestly always looked at it as a stage. And it's one that you are the star, but at the same time you're shining your starlight on your friends and family. It's such a beautiful give take, because
Hmm.
you are giving something that's very unique and very much of you.
Right.
And that moment will live in the minds of your friends and loved ones forever. People talk about my dinner
Right.
parties from 10 years ago, because in that moment, that 3 hour dinner, it was something special and it was something
Hmm.
unique. And they look forward to the next time they can be sitting at my table.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love the reference to the choreography
Mhm.
of the meal as well. And I think similarly to theater, to the performance, the dancer is on the stage and the people are right there as well. So you're in it together.
Mhm.
And I think there's so much to that, bringing it home and having a dinner party where the host is at the table.
Mhm.
So creating these recipes, creating these procedures that you just repeat and make your own, just like the cocktail. There's going to be sweet, there's going to be acid, there's going to be 2 ounces of
Mhm.
alcohol, and then, you can top it with something else. So you can change these things up, but because the process has become so practiced, you get to be at your own party,
Mhm.
and that is what makes it so memorable for people in a positive way, instead of they're following you into the kitchen because they want to be with you, not
Absolutely.
because they're wrecking your jam.
Absolutely. I mean, just like the recipes in my book, Seasons Around the Table, where you have something that you can repeat and it's tested and true. I give you a recipe for creating table scapes for different holidays, different occasions like Mother's Day and baby showers and garden parties. I have a solstice summer party in the
Yay.
garden, right? I know you throw amazing solstice parties. It's about creating a recipe that you can take, you can make the first time as it looks in the book, and then the next time add your layer, and then the next time your layer, another layer, until you are creating your own. I mean, it really comes down to that. It's about empowering the hostess or host. It's about empowering the home cook. It's realizing that we as a culture can still really benefit from entertaining and hosting people
Hmm.
in our spaces, but we don't have to stick to the formality or the fussiness of dinner parties and entertaining of the past. Take what's useful, take what's beautiful, streamline it so that you yourself can be in the midst of that party enjoying it as well.
Absolutely. Okay, this question may be really difficult. So I'm going to let you choose more than one.
Mm.
Do you have a favorite party, favorite tablescape, favorite? Do you need to choose two favorites? I mean, I feel like obviously my favorite clothes at the store are the ones I buy, but then within my closet, immediately there are less favorites. And then of my favorite things I pack in my suitcase, and although they're vetted, there's something that's my least favorite in the suitcase now that I'm going to pull from. So I know you only chose your favorite things to put in this book, but is there also a hierarchy as you reflect back, or what photographed beautifully, or what you just loved?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, every every photograph, and there's over 125 photographs in this book.
Mm,
Over every recipe has a photograph. Every table scape has multiple photographs because I am a visual learner, and I want people to kind of look at this book not only as a toolkit, like a party planner in your back pocket, but also as something that you flip through on a Sunday while drinking your tea. Just to be inspired by the colors and the textures. Um, I think for me, I am a spring summer girl. My favorite
okay.
flower in the world is a peony. I had it all over my wedding. I have it. I have a peony hedge outside my house. So I used peonies in this gorgeous spring Mother's Day setup, and it was very simple. It was done in my friend's kitchen. She let me borrow her space, and we set up her island that's white marble, and
Mm,
I created this bouquet of white hydrangeas, pink peonies, purple iris, the xanthus, and lots of small pansies. And we used a pink, purple, and white color palette, very spring, very vibrant, and with gold touches. And it had color, it had shape, it had texture, it had blue glasses that reminded me of France. Like all the things that I love about cooking and entertaining and photography, having this dreaminess in that scene. That is probably my favorite one. And it actually made it on the cover
mm.
of the book.
Yay.
I was really happy with that. And then the second one was also a cover contender, was this summer solstice garden party that I
Mm,
was able to host with my girlfriends in their back garden. I invited all my friends, and I laid out this long table with linens and bright colors. And we're talking oranges and purples and reds and yellows, and with different runners. And what I really wanted to emphasize was the bounty of summer. So there were bowls of fruit and nectarines falling off the table, and hunks of melon, and big tall floral arrangements that looked like, I don't know, it was like someone just looked at a palette of color and went, blam, that's summer. And the ladies dressed in light colored dresses, whites, and flowers in their hair. And I really felt like we were welcoming the solstice in that way, and the
mm-hmm.
solstice being the sunlight, the warmth, the real familiarity of having people in your life that you want to sit with and
Mm.
enjoy flowers, enjoy drink, enjoy food. And that was probably my favorite shoot and one of my favorite scenes because you can see the joy in that.
Oh.
So that would be the summer solstice garden party and the Mother's Day brunch.
Oh, I love it. Fantastic. And I'm assuming you have holiday tablescapes in there as well. I'm really looking forward to, I always love some new inspiration and know that now is the time to start looking
Absolutely.
at those things and start transitioning the house and the table and all of those good things. I'm so excited.
I have you covered for every major holiday. Thanksgiving, we have Hanukkah, we have Christmas, we have New Year's, we have Valentine's Day, we have, Easter and all the cookouts during the summer. And each
Perfect.
tablescape and each menu reflects the seasonality of where we are
Mm,
in the growing season and the growing calendar. So you can have a lot of fun. And what's really interesting about this cookbook is per season, there are 4 events or 4 holidays,
oh,
each with
good.
their
Okay.
own menu. So you can mix and match.
Oh, I love that. I'm such a fan of any cookbook that is not only by season, but by menu.
Mhm.
So great job.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited. It's my favorite way. So I'm looking forward to pouring a cup of coffee and then transitioning to a glass of champagne as I look through every single page. please tell everybody where they can get their own copy and how they can find and follow all of your goodness.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me. Well, you can find the book on any major book selling platform, including Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, Target, and Walmart. Or you can visit my website, straight-to-the-hips-baby.com/seasons to find all of those links. And you can find my website again, straight-to-the-hips-baby.com, online and on social media at straight-to-the-hips-baby, and in my newsletter on Substack, where you'll get new recipes that are exclusive. No one else has them. You get a first look, and you also get a behind the scenes look at writing, at cookbook making, at running on TV and making a magic for TV moment with a recipe. It's called Jessie-Sierra, The Last Bite.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, and tell us a little bit more about what's happening with TV. Do you have regular segments? Are you popping in all over the country? What's happening?
Well, a little bit of both for the book. I'm popping in and out nationally, but I am on CBS, NBC, and PBS affiliates all over the country. I appear typically 5 to 6 times a month. And
Amazing.
it's really, really fun. And my most recent jaunt was in New York to promote the book on New York Living, which was wonderful. And I'm actually looking for opportunities to create or to host shows or to be part of food TV. So anyone who's listening, if you know someone, if you have something, or you want to hear my ideas, check me out. You can always email me at jessie@straight-to-the-hips-baby.com. I am ready for this next adventure, and I see TV on the horizon.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes, yes, and more yes. I am equally available for all the goodness coming my way. It might not be TV related, but it is certainly real estate related.
Ooh,
So, all sorts of fun things coming for us in the future, and I'm here for it.
amazing, amazing.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. I cannot wait to play in person soon. We need to host a dinner party, obviously. Come on over to the Phineas Wright House and we'll do supper club. It'll be so fun.
Oh, you have me at supper. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Oh,
Thank you, Jessie. It's great to be with you.
thank you. Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.